Welcome to Gold Silver Pros.
Hey everybody, this is your host, Rob Keens at 𝑘𝑠𝑖lverpros.com, and I'm very excited today because we have the return of a very special segment. It is Mining Stock Mondays. People familiar with my channel would notice we've done a lot of these in the past where we talk about investments in the space, specifically around the mining stocks. We love to invest in that space. Well, that space hasn't been super busy as of late. The major indexes, the 𝘎𝑚 and the GDX, have just started trading back up. People are coming back into the mining stock sector, and it is now mining stock season again, which we love to see. And I've got one for you. I've got one that's a dark horse. I got one that people aren't paying attention to, but I look at it and I say, ooh, this one has multi-bagger potential. I would be shocked if it's not a 5 or 10 bagger where it's at right now. I would be absolutely shocked. It's a great project. Lots unknown out there about it, and I'm going to talk about that today. And you guys are going to be getting a first look at a company called Rockridge Resources. Let's go ahead and put it up on the screen. They're a copper and a gold play. In fact, they've got more than copper and gold. It's multi-metallic. It's polymetallic. And I love these projects because they do well during recessions. They do well during normal times, and they give you that optionality. And as a matter of fact, Rockridge has a lot of optionality to it. Let's get into it. They're a copper and gold portfolio, so they have optionality. There's two resources we're going to be talking about today. We know that gold recently touched on an all-time high of 2074, and it's threatening, to go back up into the $2,100 range again, as we've had these bank failures recently. Copper has been on a multi-year bull run. Both resources look very promising, and the fact that it's got two main metal projects, although there's a bunch of other base metals in there, really gives them an advantage. I wanted to talk about why gold first before we actually get into the company. So as we can see here on the chart, we've got a nice little consolidation like a flag pattern in gold that's highlighted by the green lines. And that flag pattern is a bull consolidation pattern, meaning there's probably going to be a breakout as that flag starts to close up. You can see on the right-hand side. Then I've got the other bullish formation I've been talking about for a few years, and that's the cup and handle. And that's dating back to the 2011 high of 1900 gold. Of course, we had a high of 2074 recently. Then we had a nice little cup pattern form, but that is very bullish for gold. So two indicators are saying very bullish for gold on the chart. Well, how does gold do during recessions? Because what if we do end up going to recession? I've been talking about that a lot lately. Gold does very well. You can see this is just a chart I grabbed off a UK site looking at the gold price in UK pounds during a recession. It really explodes upward, as you can see, and that's true in all currencies. Gold does well in all currencies. So I'm expecting gold to do a lot better, which means the project that Rockridge has for gold is going to be valued up according to what it is now. And it's already profitable. It looks like it will be profitable at current rate. They still have work to do on that project, but we're going to get into it. Gold right now is the phoenix rising from the ashes, and something I'm very bullish on. Here's a chart dating back to like 2009, or dating back before that. But since 2009, you can see that the central banks have been buying gold hand over fist. Why? Well, we had the Great Recession and the banking issues. And so the central banks want to leverage into gold, and they're doing that big time. You can see this reversal dating back to the 1980s when the central banks were selling gold into the market because gold was not the financial asset du jour. But now, since the Great Recession, they've been buying it like crazy. So any company that has gold in the ground is going to do well during the next stage of the bull market. Now we want to take a look at copper. What about copper? Copper is on an upward trend as well. You can see the trend line dating back to 2015. Now we've had a little bit of softness in the market lately due to the recession, but I think copper will do well through this recession and pass, and I'm going to show you why on some charts. First, we want to look at copper, and this is worldwide usage. You can see that it's increasing across the board. The chart's going up and to the right. That's an increasing pattern. And you can see here what it's used for, mostly for buildings, but also infrastructure, transportation, consumer needs, commercial, and industrial. So a lot of different uses for copper. It's used for everything, and it's not going to stop because we have to live, regardless of what type of economy we're living through. Copper tends to do pretty well. If you look at the green movement, it's going to drive copper through the roof. Global decarbonization, electric vehicles, infrastructure, the same thing that's going to drive the demand for silver in the electrification and in these ESG type programs around the world, it's going to drive copper. And regardless of what you think of those programs, they're going to continue. They're mandated, they're voted in. It's part of the edict of these governments. We're headed that direction. We're going to EVs, we're going to more green technology, we're going to decarbonization, and copper is going to be huge, much like silver in this play. You cannot have any of these initiatives without copper or without silver. So If you're looking for something to handcuff to silver as another complementary metal for some of the same reasons, interestingly, it's not gold for these reasons for the ESV and electric and the green movement and electric vehicles. It's more copper. Silver and copper go together in that instance. Copper during recessions does really well. Although my chart for some reason is not showing up, it shows that after recessions, copper does very, very well. In fact, it really increases in price. And here's copper at war. Let's say for some reason we have a hot war. Copper during wars or big dislocations actually goes up. You can see the US Civil War, some of these other different little economic events, then big ones like World War I, Korean War. That'll drive the price of copper up. Now, one thing to look at on the chart is the price of copper has been coming down. We expect that to go up because we're going to have supply shortages. I'm going to show you that here in a moment. But I wanted to show you during certain times, like after recessions and during wars, copper does very, very well. Here's the copper market into the future. Now, we're sitting right here at around 2023, and we have enough copper for what we need. But in the next 2 to 3 years, we start to have that supply cliff. Those of you who have been following my channel know that I've already talked about the existing supply cliff for silver, where we're 200 million ounces short of the silver that we need as to what we're producing every year. Therefore, we're running down worldwide stocks. The same thing is coming to gold and copper. Gold is going to happen in the next 3 to 4 years. Copper is going to happen in the next 1 to 2. So the cool thing about Rockridge is they have exposure to 2 metals which are going into supply shortage in the next 2 to 3 years. That means if you're investing in this company, the company's going to do well because those commodities are going to do well. And just the commodity price rises are going to raise the price of the stock of these companies that are in exploration and in development of these projects. There's no other way. They have to be revalued up. And so I expect all copper and gold market participants to be revalued up during the next commodity boom. And we're about to go through that commodity boom. We've been in a commodity bear for a while. You started to see some of the base metals and the precious metals break out. That's a sign that we're in the nascent or early stages of a commodity boom. And I think this commodity boom could last 20 to 30 years. Now, we do have to get through that recession first, but gold and copper tend to do very well during there because during recessions, you have the need for them. Also, more support in the U.S. There's President Biden signing a recent infrastructure bill. It provides $39 billion to help modernize transportation, $7.5 billion for low emission transportation, $7.5 billion for charging stations, $65 billion to improve the electrical grid and build thousands of miles of new power lines, $17 billion to be invested in port infrastructure for the seas, airports and that type of thing, and $65 billion to improve broadband network access and access to the internet across the world, especially in rural America. You're going to need copper for that. You can't just lay fiber. We're going to need copper. And by the way, all that old copper plant that exists in the United States, I used to work for telecom at Verizon. And that copper plant, some of it has to be replaced. You can't replace it all with fiber. One, it's too expensive. And two, there's not the demand for that high speed everywhere. Sometimes in a rural area, copper is the project. And there are programs out there by the government to pay companies to install copper lines because you can still get DSL speeds with those. And you can even do things like stick in some simulated ISDN lines and things. So to get it out to rural America, it's not going to all be fiber. It's too expensive. It's going to be a lot of copper. So not only the electrification of the world, but the internet exposure and increase across the world, especially in rural America, is going to come from copper. And those programs have been paid for. I know I used to work in telecom, and so they're there. All right, we wanted to talk about Rockridge Resources' 2 main projects. Now, remember, they have 2, and that's what I'd love to see in companies. Not only optionalities in terms of different metals that they have, which give you different opportunities to make money depending upon what the economy is doing, instead of bidding on a company that only has access to one. Not only that, but they have 2 main projects that we're going to talk about. The Knife Lake project is the big one. It has 82 claims and about 57,000 hectares. The project area is advanced stage copper, silver, zinc, and cobalt in Saskatchewan. There's been a lot of exploration for 30 years, so they have a lot of data already. This is not a greenfield project where they don't know what's there. It's got some data, it's got some info. So this is a little bit later stage. It's not an early stage development project. Even though looking at the company, you would think it is, they've actually picked up something that's been there for a while. Rockridge completed its own work in the last 20 years in 2019. And here's the highlights: 2.03% copper. You can't see it there, but about 9.88 grams per ton silver, which is right here. See if I can get it on there. 9.8 grams per ton silver, about 0.2 grams per ton gold, and 0.36% zinc. Now, the cool thing about this is the silver and the gold by itself, if you added those together, would make it a decent project. But you add in those base metals, and all of a sudden it becomes an awesome project. It's got so much value in there that you can get during, any economy. This project's going to do well. If you're looking at copper equivalent, if you put everything to copper equivalent, because it's mainly a copper project, you got 3.8 million tons of copper equivalent at 1.02%. Those are excellent numbers. Anything over 1% is considered really, really good on copper. And another inferred resources is 7.9 million tons at 0.67%. And that's another good number. Those are good numbers from a concentration perspective on copper. Here is a little bit of a map and a resource estimate for the Knife Lake project. On the left side, you can see that there have been a lot of other projects in the area that do well. A lot of these shaded areas are existing projects or existing work that's going on. And the green dots are these little indications of where they see the mineral. So there's definitely a lot there at Knife Lake. And this is in an area that's been historically productive in Saskatchewan. So we know that the area has been producing. So it's de-risked from an area perspective, just an area geology perspective. And now they just got to go find where that resource is sitting in the ground. And that's what they're doing right now. And this is where resource companies, you'll make the most money as an investor, is when they're doing this stage, when they're looking for the material. They have something and they have really good results, but they're really building that out. That's where you're going to see with that news flow, that share price rise. And you can see here I just put a couple of drill holes for you. You can see it's nice, healthy results across the top. You've got copper, you've got silver, you've got gold, you've got zinc, all of those. Cobalt, I think, is in there as well. So it's got a bunch of metals. So if you're into battery metals, you've got some in there. If you're into base metals, you've got some in there. You're in precious metals. It's got a little bit of everything. It's a really good optionality play. I love Knife Lake. This is the type of project that when they develop it can last for a long time. This is one that's not going to get put on care and maintenance because it has multiple assets that they can sell. This is one that's going to stay in production. That's good for shareholders. It's what you're looking for. Here is their initial resource estimate for 2019. This needs to be updated, of course, as they do additional exploration work. But you can see here, they have a ton of copper. They have a ton of gold. They have a ton of everything. If you're looking at gold ounces, 11,951, 456. I believe these are in, thousands of ounces. Lots of copper, millions of pounds, lots of some cobalt, some zinc, all of that in there. And they've got it both an inferred and existing resource. Now, this is an initial resource estimate. There's a lot more there. The main thing to pay attention to, you've got millions of tons of these base metals, but you got a healthy amount of gold and silver mixed in as well. So if you're a gold and silver investor and you want to take advantage of gold and silver, but you also realize the value of copper and how important copper is to electrification and green programs, then copper becomes, really, really important. But wait, ladies and gentlemen, there's more. Even though you've got that polymetallic project, we've got another one called the Raney Gold Project, which is really cool. Let's take a look at this one. They own 100% interest. There's no streams, royalties, or anybody else in there. So they've got this one. It's a large prospective gold property. They got 2,800 hectares. It's 110 kilometers south of the Timmins district, which I'll show you that on a map here in a moment. Timmins is huge in Canada for gold. My goodness gracious. What a massive area. And they're not too far off that. They're in the 𝘎𝙀𝘾𝙊𝙈𝙀 greenstone belt, which is part of the 𝘎𝙀𝘾𝙊𝙀 greenstone belt, which the 𝘎𝙀𝘾𝙊𝙀 might be one of the most resource-rich areas in the entire world, and I'm not joking. The 𝘎𝙀𝘶 area is one of the most resource-rich areas in the entire world for gold, silver, lead, zinc, tin, you name it, it's there. This is huge district. There's been some limited historical exploration campaigns on the property, but they did do it in 2020. And then 10 years ago, when gold was in the $900 an ounce range, they were doing it back then too. So that tells you what it could be profitable at. If they thought it could be profitable at 900, yes, some costs have risen, but it means it's not going to be really high all-in sustaining costs by the time this thing all gets done. So they've noticed 6.5 gram per ton over 8 meters on one sample. Another hole they have here, RN 2006, 28 grams per ton over. Are you kidding me? You can make money with 0.5 gram per ton if it's near the surface. You're looking at 56 times that in one drill hole. I mean, the potential for this project is pretty good. And they see that potential and they want to continue to work it. Here is the Knife Lake project on the upper left-hand screen. It's circled in red, and you can see it's not that far from Timmins. It's still in the Abitibi, so it's in the big, awesome area, and it's really close to Snow Lake and Flin Flon and Hanson Lake and all these really big projects that have been in Timmins for a long time. This is a really great area for this to be in for a gold project. I'm sorry, and at the bottom you can see some of the drill holes. One of them have like 28 grams per ton. Some of them have like 6. Some of them have like a half. Some have a gram per ton. Those are all good numbers when you mix it all in. They're going to have a nice mix of gold in there, and they're going to be able to make some money. Here are some neighbors. I Am Gold is a namer. They have their Sumitomo JV Gold project. You have Newmont's Borden Mine is there, and it's in commercial production since 2019. Goldcorp acquired the Borden project in 2015 from a junior for $526 million. That is a big project, guys. The Borden deposit remains open at depth and has good exploration potential, and it's very similar to this project. So Newmont has a big one. 𝘼𝙗𝑔𝐾𝑜LD has a big one. They're in the right area. They're what we say over the target. They're in the area of where you want to look. They also have a great management team. Listen to this, Dr. Andrew Ramcharan, with the SVP corporate development, extensive background, development for 𝘼𝙗𝑔𝐾𝑜LD. So that area that we're just talking about, 𝘼𝙗𝑔𝐾𝑜LD, he's got that experience from 𝘼𝙗𝑔𝐾𝑜LD, and he's here for that reason. He knows what 𝘼𝙗𝑔𝐾𝑜LD has out here, and now he's working for Rockridge, trying to do the same thing for Rockridge that he did for 𝘼𝙗𝑔𝐾𝑜LD just down the road, and they got him on the team. Jordan Trimble is there. He's an entrepreneur, has many, many years of experience. He was a corporate development manager for Bayfield Ventures, Sky Harbor Resources, a director of Society Vancouver. Jonathan Wiesblatt, CEO, 20 years experience in financial industry, 15 years as an institutional investor, as a portfolio manager. So they have a really good management team. They got the finance side, and they got the PhD resource who's worked this area before. So when you're looking at a management team, 1, do they have the experience? Check. 2, do they have the capabilities? Check. 3, do they know this district and this type of formation? Check. I cannot tell you how many times, guys, I've been down to gold projects and have a geologist look at it and say, I'm a geologist, but I've never worked this project. I've got a huge learning curve. When you've got a guy who's been in that area, understands that specific geology, because if you think about it, there are millions of potential combinations of geologic formations. To have somebody here who knows this formation is critical. Information about that, it trades as rock on the TSX, OTCQB here in the US, RRLF, and on the Frankfurt RRO. They have some shares outstanding, but their market capitalization is only $5 million. Now, I don't think that's too many shares for $5 million, because I think they're not priced very high, because the market doesn't know them. But they have 2 projects, an established area, good management team, good valuations on that, a 43-101 on their big project, and they're working towards a resource estimate on their second. This gives you tons of optionality, people, tons and tons and tons of optionality. And this could potentially be just a really good potential stock for you. That's why I bring it to you on Mining Stock Monday. I'm looking for the jewels. I'm hunting for those hidden diamonds, and I think we may have one right here. Again, Tigger's up on the screen if you guys are interested. Do your own research. Look at this, consult your financial advisor before you either get into junior mining stocks or before you look specifically at Rockridge. I got to make that disclaimer, but I'm looking at this one going, if this is not a 5 to 10 bagger over the next couple of years in my sleep, something is seriously wrong, because the market doesn't know them. You're getting one that has 2 projects, one which has had, historical exploration, that's a multi-metallic, which is not a whole lot of risk when you're talking polymetallic, especially when you're talking copper, gold, silver. I mean, come on, there's really not a lot of risk there. But they have that second gold project, which is starting to look interesting. And man, when you've got 2 projects and a good management team in a good area, these stocks do well, especially in gold markets. And what's happening to gold and silver? We're back in that bull market, guys. We're back in that bull market. The 𝘎𝑚 and the GDX are starting to move. The mining stocks finally, after a year and a half of kind of sitting there, deciding whether they want to move, have started to move. Okay, the market is starting to move. So this is when you want to get in on these stocks. And this is when you want to take a shot at some things if you're going to do it. So consult your financial advisor, make your decision about whether you want to get in. I think this is a really good target, guys. I mean, they're priced very cheaply. They have a couple of good projects, a good management team. Either they're going to develop this all the way, but more than likely, one of these majors is going to take them out. One of the majors is going to want that copper and going to want that gold, and they're going to boom. They're going to combine out. This is my prediction. I don't think Rockridge is ever going to make a development. I think they get taken out way before, and I think shareholders are going to get the reward probably earlier than in most early stage development companies. I don't think this one's going to last long. They've got some projects here which I think are going to capture the market's attention. And so I wanted to bring that to you first so that you see it before everybody else. I'm going to be the first one in the market on this one, and I'm doing it on purpose. I'm bringing you a hidden gem here, Rockridge Resources. I think it's potentially a good one. Take a look at it, guys, if you like it. And again, happy to have the return of Mining Stock Mondays. We're so excited for this. And we'll continue to do this as we see resources come available, as we see projects that we like. We may not have one of these every Monday, but as we see products we like, we're going to bring them to you. We're going to be choosy, and I think we're going to give you some good options, and I think this one is a good option for you. So take a look at it if you guys are interested. And remember, regular content on the channel tomorrow, live stream Thursday. We have a very special research presentation for you. And as always on Fridays, the weekly market wrap to get you up to date on what just happened and to get you a nice preview of what we think is going to happen. Stay tuned to the channel for that. Until next time, this is Rob Keynes with Gold Silver Pros.
Hey, thanks for watching. We selected these videos just for you. Check them out. And remember, $4.99 a month keeps the lights on and the channel going. So join our Gold Silver Pro supporter membership. We appreciate your support. Keep stacking.